bum, bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum. Hey, kia ora, Helen Burns here, coming to you live from Sun City in Arizona. Welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast number 1258. Today we are talking about 5 travel tips for you. So buckle up, get ready, because here was a lot of information to get through in a short amount of time. If you want further information, just connect with us and we'll be able to give you more information. But to start with, passport versus a passport card. Now, passport cards have been around for a while. They're used for, and we're talking American passport and passport cards. Let's rewind here a little bit. The passport, which is the booklet with the little pages in there, they are used for international travel by air, sea, or land. And in the case if you need to use a real ID, and this is if you are in America and your passport has, your driver's license has a little yellow, I think it's yellow, I haven't pulled my driver's license out for a while, has a little yellow star in the top corner, then you know it's a real ID. And passports can be used in place of a driver's license for that as well, as an alternative to state-issued ID like driver's licenses. And it is the only documentation, and the passport is the only documentation that allows you to travel international by air. And then you have the passport card, which is about the size of your driver's license. And you use that on entering the United States at land border crossings and sea ports of entry from Canada, Mexico, Caribbean countries, and Bermuda. The passport card cannot be used for international travel. So, for example, and it can also be used as a real ID in place of the state-issued ID as well. But here's the thing. If you have a passport card and you are on a Caribbean cruise, and for some reason you have to leave the ship on an island that is not a US island, then you're going to have difficulty getting back home because you can't fly on a passport card. So yes, you can use the passport card to re-enter the United States from, on a cruise that's gone around those countries. So if you've gone out of Fort Lauderdale or done a Caribbean cruise and come back again, you can show your passport card to get back into the US. But if you get offloaded on an island, on a Caribbean island that is not a US territory, like the US Virgin Islands or Puerto Rico, then you're going to have problems getting back home because you do need a passport to fly. It's the same if you're down in Mexico. If you do a cruise, say, out of LA down to Mexico and back again, if for some reason you get offloaded in Mexico, the passport card is not going to allow you to fly back to America. You're going to have to do a road trip all the way up to the border between US and Mexico to cross on a land border at that point. And the same if you're going into Canada. If for any reason you're going into Canada, if you're driving into Canada, then yes, you can use the passport card to get backwards and forwards between there. But if you are somewhere inside Canada that you need to fly back home, you cannot do that on a passport card. You need the passport. So that's the limitations difference between a passport and a passport card. With a passport, you have a lot more flexibility. Yes, I know it is bigger than a driver's license, but it means that if anything should happen and you get offloaded in a foreign country, like Canada, Mexico, one of the Caribbean countries, or Bermuda, you have a way to get back home with your passport. With your passport card, you're stuck until somebody can send you your passport. And in the case of medical emergencies and that sort of stuff, you better make sure you got your passport with you. So I always, some people get both, but I figured, why get both? Why not just have the passport? Because, and I carry my passports with me all the time, simply because if I have to suddenly get on a flight to go back to New Zealand, I've got my passport with me. If I'm on a ship and I get offloaded, I have my passport with me so I can get back home. So there's a lot of good pluses for having a passport. Some people like the passport card, especially if they drive frequently across the borders for business. or maybe to a vacation rental or something like that, that is not far from the border, so it's easy for them to get back. They're not going to have to fly back. But if you're going deep into Canada or deep into Mexico, take a passport with you, because it's going to be the easiest way you get back home. I mean, even if you're on Cancun or the Mexican Riviera, the only way you can get back home quickly is to fly. In fact, that would be a long way to drive. Just thinking about that, that would be a long way to drive. Even down, so I always recommend that people just get the passport. But if you're somebody who goes backwards and forwards, so say like, for example, if you're in Buffalo and you go and do business frequently in Toronto, then yeah, passport card would be handy for that, to be able to go backwards and forwards across the border. The same if you work on, if you're here in the US, but you have to go into Canada for a short trip, that's not far from the border, it's easy to get back across. But if anything happens and you have to fly back for whatever reason, you're going to be stuck there if you don't have your passport. So that's the difference between a passport and a passport card. Completely up to you which one you want to use, but just remember, if you are international travel, the passport has the most flexibility, as you can travel internationally by air, sea, or land. Okay, tip number two. So that's tip number one, passport versus passport card. Travel with a passport. That's my advice. Take it or leave it, doesn't matter. Doesn't affect me. It'll just affect you in your travel. Sorry, I'm in a snippy mood today. I don't know why. Number two, allow for cancellations. As you saw over the Christmas New Year break, over that whole thing, there was this whole bunch of flights that got canceled and everything else. But this is something even prior to COVID that I would always advise travelers to do. And that is, if you were going on a cruise, and a lot of people were upset because they were missing cruises, they were missing weddings, all that sort of stuff, is fly in at least a day or two beforehand. Seriously. And over the Christmas break, you got to see that in real time, what was happening when people were flying in the morning of, the evening before. They weren't allowing any time there for cancellations. My youngest was going to come and visit me from, where is he? In Michigan. And they canceled his first flight. And so he says, I'm not coming, because it wasn't worth it, because they couldn't get him on another flight until I think it was a day or two later. And there was a risk that would be cancelled as well. So he says, I'm not coming, because he's only going down here for like 3 nights or something like that. It was just a quick in and out visit. So he said, if my flight gets cancelled, I'm not coming. I says, fair enough. So if you are doing something like I'm going to Tampa in February for my niece's wedding, I'm going to be flying in at least 2 days. Hi, Mama. I'm going to be flying in at least 2 days before the event to make sure I get there. Yes, her wedding is not until the evening time frame, but I don't want to be rushed. If I get in there 2 days before the wedding, then I have a whole, 2 nights before the wedding, I have a whole day and a half, because the wedding's not till like 4 or 4:30 in the evening. So I basically have a day and a half, should the flight get cancelled, to get on a flight to get to my hotel so that I can still be in time for the wedding. It's allowing for cancellations to happen. There is stuff that's going to go wrong on your trip. I know this. And even coming back, I've got a day built in. I've got the day I'm going to fly out, and then I have a day built in case my flight gets cancelled. So always think, if my flight gets cancelled, what am I going to do? So even add a day in on the end of your travel as well, just in case there's flights cancelled and that sort of thing as well. Or they may not even cancel the flights. They may reschedule the flights. They may change the time of the flights. So it allows for that. It just gives you a little flexibility on that as well. Number 3, COVID restrictions. Please do not rely on your travel person, your travel professional, your travel agent, your travel advisor to provide that information for you. Make sure that you have checked where you are going and what the COVID restrictions are. Do you have to be vaccinated? Are you required to wear masks? A lot of places now are not requiring now, because most of the world's vaccinated now anyway, or most of the Western world is anyway. They're turning around and saying, well, because most most people are now vaccinated. We're not going to require vaccinations for those coming into the country. But if you are not vaccinated, you may be required to take extra tests. You may be required to be quarantined. Check out the country. Type in, what did I type in earlier? Oh, I closed that window down. Oh, that was bright. But type in the name of the country and put arrival entry requirements. So you can put like New Zealand entry requirements or COVID entry requirements, stuff like that. So it brings you up. It may take you to the with New Zealand, it takes you to newzealand.com. I think it was. Yeah, newzealand.com. Or it will also take you to the New Zealand US Embassy pages as well. So you can find information on the embassy pages. You can find information on the country pages as well. They will have in there what their requirements are as far as COVID vaccines go, as far as masks go, and things like that. So make sure that you are fully informed yourself and not just relying on somebody else to provide that information for you. Because if you happen to get given the wrong and incorrect information and you get denied entry into a country, your travel insurance will not cover that, because it is up to you to make sure that your paperwork is correct and that you are up to date on what the current COVID restrictions requirements are. And they do change frequently. So that is that's another thing that you need to do. So when you're looking at that, check on those. Number 4, planning your trip. This is one of my favorite ones. Where do you want to go? How long do you want to go for? Do you want your travel time included in your vacation time? Are you being realistic with your budget? And let's see. So where do you want to go? Do you want to go by land, sea, or air? And on land, it could be a bus. It could be train. It could be driving. So where do you want to go and how do you want to get there? That's your first thing. Next thing is, how long do you want to be gone for? Now, for example, if you're going down to places like that are on the other side of the international date line, like Japan, New Zealand, Australia, some of the Pacific Islands and things, when you leave the US, if you leave the US on a Tuesday, you will arrive in those countries on a Thursday, so you lose Wednesday. But when you fly back, you arrive on the same day that you left. Follow me on that one. So if you left say New Zealand on a Friday, you get back to LA, it's still Friday. Yes. So when you turn around and say that you want to take a 2-week vacation, are you allowing for the travel time to be included in that? Or is it you want 14 days in New Zealand plus the travel time? So think of those things when you are planning your trip. Do you want the travel time included in your trip, or do you want it added on either end so that you get a full 2 weeks in one country and then you've got your travel time on top of that as well? But that's one of the biggest things. The other thing is, be realistic with your budget. Have a look around. You can Google different sites and things to get a ballpark figure. But here's the thing. Once you've planned your trip and got it kind of worked out, contact a travel professional, which is number 5. Travel professionals, because the travel professionals know all the good deals. They know the areas, and if they don't know the area very well, they have people who do. It's part of their team. They will have somebody on their team who is an expert in that area that may say, no, don't stay in that area of town, stay in this area. I had one client one time who, yes, they were very, very detail orientated on their itinerary. And they didn't like the fact, I don't know what it was about the hotel that I had them staying in, but it was like right next to the downtown area of one of the towns they were going to. So it was handy to everything. They could walk to all the local attractions and all of that. And for some reason, they decided they didn't want to stay in that hotel. They wanted to stay in another hotel. Well, the other hotel was several miles outside of town. So now they needed, and they weren't renting a car. They wanted to do everything on public transportation. And I said to them, I says, you do realize that this one is a fair way out of town and there's no buses from that area into town. So you're going to have a rental car or rely on taxis. And they were sort of like, oh, But what they were looking at was the cost. And then I said, now, if you stay in town, you're going to eliminate any transportation costs because everything's within walking distance. And I actually showed them on a map. You are situated here. You want to go here, 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 and here. You have a bus that stops right outside your hotel. And they're like, oh. I said, yes. So it can get you to the other things. The events you want to go to, the things you want to see and do, have shuttle buses that will pick you up from the hotel and take you to the events. They're not going to pick you up from out of town. And they're like, oh. So listen to your travel professional because they know these details. They know them. And so they're going to save you a lot of time and a lot of money for in case you get there and you're sort of like, oh, I didn't realize this was so far out of town. They can tell you that. If you've got a rental car, it's not going to be a problem. But if you don't have a rental car and you're relying on public transportation to get you around, you need to know how far is it to the nearest bus stop? How much is it going to cost me in a taxi to go from here to here? Do the events I want to go to, do they have shuttle buses? And the cool part is in New Zealand, we have these, they're called iVisitors. And they're like your visitor center. And you go to the iSites, and you go to the iSites, it's the ITE. And you go to these iSites, and they're like visitor centers. And a lot of the attractions that you want to go and see in most towns will have a shuttle bus that will pick you up from there and take you to the event. And so all the hotels I've put my clients in are within a walking distance of an iSite. And they can, less than a 5-minute walk to the iSite. They go there. Or some of the attractions will actually pick up from the hotel. Some of the tours that they want to do will pick them up from the hotel or from the iSite. So one or the other will help you. You'll get picked up from those. And so it's kind of cool when you've got somebody who actually knows about that information because it saves you a lot of time and a lot of money. And instead of you getting there going, oh, I need to go to downtown. And you're 4 miles out of town. How are you going to get there? They may not have Ubers and Lyfts in that town. They may only have taxis. How long is it going to take for a taxi to get out to where you are? And then they've got to do the return trip as well. So how much is that going to cost you? So you got to think of things like these, and your travel professional will help you. Your travel professional will also help you find the best deal for you. They will help customize the plans for you. They will work with different tour operators different tour operators to help you get the best package deals that you can. So when they give you that price, this is what you get the itinerary, and it says this is what it includes. A lot of times in hotels, I work a lot with trips to New Zealand and Australia. So what we make sure we include in your hotels is breakfast every morning. Breakfast is included. Now, if you don't include breakfast, so I had one client one time who turned around and says, oh, it's too expensive. Well, we can find this cheaper online because it's only this, da, 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 da. And I'm sort of like, no, you're not comparing apples to apples. You're comparing apples to oranges. They go, what do you mean? I said, well, first of all, this is a package deal. So I can't even tell you what the hotel's going to cost because it's a set price. It's got everything included. It also includes breakfast. And if you have a look at the hotel, they charge you $30 a day for breakfast. And I said, and we include that in the price in the package as part of the package. And the whole package has a discount attached to it, which we don't have access to. We've gone to these people. They have put the whole package together for us and given us one price. And that includes all your hotels, all your breakfasts are included, your rental car is included. Your rental car also comes with the GPS and with the basic insurance and this and which is all add-ons if you have to go and add those on. And this came very obvious to one client one time who we set them the price and they said, oh, we can book it all cheaper online. And they went and did that. And by the time they got back, they spent about $5,000 per person more than what we had quoted them per person because we had all the extras added in and they had to pay extra for the extras. So instead of, because part of the hotel package prices, it included breakfast. They then had to spend $30 per person per day for breakfast at a hotel. And that was for the full continental breakfast, the full breakfast, cooked and everything. And then there were other things that they wanted that we had included in the package that they now had to pay separately for. And because they were paying for them separately, they couldn't get whatever discount we got for them. So they were paying more per person. Some of the tours that we had included in the pricing was costing them more per person because it wasn't part of the package that had been put together for them. So that was a very big, that to me was just sort of like, that was a real eye-opener, that one. So talk with your travel professional. They can save you a lot of time. They can save you a lot of money. As they say, the internet is for looking and the travel professionals for booking. So, go and let them know, hey, I had a look at this. This is, and so when you're looking online, when you're planning your trip, look online to see what some of the prices are. And then go to, and so you have a ballpark figure of what you're going to be looking for the pricing. And then go to your travel professional. And when you turn around to them, you can now let them know, this is where we want to go. This is how many days we want to spend in that place. We want travel time included in that day, in that number of days, or we want it added on either end for those days. We want these types of hotels. So let them know the type. Do you want a 3-star? Do you want a 4-star? Do you want a 5-star hotel? Do you want a luxury experience? Do you want brick? And they will put that whole package together for you and give you one price. And a lot of times people go, oh, yeah, but we can do it cheaper online. But when you actually check the pricing online and add it all up and then add in all the extras that you wanted that are now included in the itinerary that we've given you, you'll find that way that you piecing it together and trying to put it all together comes out more expensive. The other thing about having the package deal through the travel professional as well is if you have a problem, you call your travel professional, they take care of it. I had clients who were in New Zealand one time and they decided that they didn't want to do one portion of their road trip. And I went, okay. So I said, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And so we made all that. And so I called up, I made all the changes for them. So they got the refund on the portion they weren't doing. And then we added in the cost of the extra bit that they were doing. And they still ended up getting money back because what they changed it to was less than what we had of the refund that we had gotten them on the cancellation. So we were able to do that. They were in New Zealand. They called me and said, we need to do this. I said, okay. 30 minutes later, I called them back and said, it's done. This is now where you're going to go, what you're going to do. I've already updated your, and I'd already updated their itinerary in their My Trips. And so they were able to log into that and see all the new information, get the hotel, get the new address that they were now going to that evening. And that was all done within 30 minutes. If you're piecing the thing together, you're going to have a lot of, if you have something go wrong or you decide you want to cancel a portion of it, what's the cancellation policies that the hotel has? Some hotels, they need 48 hours cancellation policy. So you got to take these sorts of things into account, and a travel professional will help you with all of this, explain it for you, and they are your point of contact when you're traveling. And if you can't get hold of your travel professional, if it's a really good itinerary that they've put together for you, they will have contact phone numbers in there for you as well. But my clients called me. I got it taken care of in 30 minutes, called them back and said it's done, and your My Trips itinerary has been updated with the latest information. If they had to do that themselves, I don't know how long that would have taken them, because then they would have had to figure out a hotel to go to for that evening, since they weren't going to drive that. They weren't going to take the 2 hours to drive to wherever it was that they were supposed to go. And they weren't, and we had to cancel a tour. We had to cancel the hotels. And we got them into another hotel about 30 minutes away. By the time I called them back, they were 30 minutes from the hotel at that point. So they were able to get there and just relax for a couple of days. And so, travel professionals are worth it. And if you're a travel professional, most travel professionals will actually charge a rate to do that, to do all of that planning and stuff for you. Believe me, they are worth every penny of that. They are your on-call person. Wherever you are in the world, most of them will say, here's my cell phone number. Call me if you need me. Text me if you need me. And they will get things taken care of for you. Some of them may take a little longer depending on the time difference. Just remember that. Depending on the time difference, it may take a little longer to get done than 30 minutes like it took me that one time. But just happened to catch everything on the right day, happened to catch them before the office was closing in New Zealand, and able to get everything taken care of. So those are your 5 tips. You got the passport versus passport card, passport, international travel, air, sea, land. Passport card, very limited on what you can do with that. Allowing extra time on your travel itinerary for cancellation. So if you're going on a cruise, go in either the day before or 2 nights before. 2 nights before is always good if you can do that. Let's see, what else have we got on there? COVID restrictions. Actually Google the country you are going to and go to their official sites, whether it's their embassy site or their actual government site, to find out what the requirements are. Also check too, this is a big one, I just suddenly remembered this one. Also check too on what you can bring into the country. Do they have anything that you are prohibited from bringing? Do they have any penalties on things? For example, there was a guy one time, found out this from another travel professional, that there was one of their clients went into New Zealand and they had their hiking boots with them, and the hiking boots had not been cleaned, and they got fined $500 New Zealand for not cleaning their boots. And the customs took care of cleaning the boots and fined them $500. And on the website, it is very clear that if you are bringing things like boots that you use outdoors for hiking and that sort of stuff, that you have to clean them. If you're bringing any camping equipment in, it has to be cleaned. And it even has it had this big banner box across the top, because somebody says, oh, I couldn't find it anywhere on the website. So I just went straight to the site, took a screenshot of it, posted it, and said, here you go. And they were like, oh, and there's this big box. There was this big top box at the top with this big warning, and it says failure to comply will result in hefty fines. So yes, because New Zealand has a horticultural and agricultural country, and that is a lot of what our exports are. So they do everything and anything that they can to protect those. And if it means charging somebody $500 because they're coming in with unclean camping gear or hiking boots, then that's what it's going to take, to get the message across. So be aware of things like that. Check the official sites on those countries for anything like that. And it's usually very easy to find. So look up your COVID restrictions if you're going to go camping or tramping in any of those countries, or what equipment can you take with you, and is there anything you have to do? Plan your trip. Don't just turn around and say, oh, let's go to Hawaii. Okay, yeah, you can probably get away with things in Hawaii, but you also got to remember what time of the year are you going to, and is it going to be a high tourist season? Is it shoulder season? Is it off season? Shoulder season is that lead up to the peak time, or from the peak time leading down, and then you have the off season. So if you go somewhere like New Zealand, you want to go in the off season and get some skiing in, which is summertime over here. We're opposite seasons. So if you want to take a summer break and go skiing, go down to New Zealand and Australia. They've got some great skiing down there. You probably never even thought of that. But they hold world championships down in New Zealand for skiing, and they also have a lot of the Northern Hemisphere skiers will go down there during their off season, which is the summer season in the Northern Hemisphere, and do some training down there in the South Island of New Zealand on the ski fields and stuff. So, plan your trip. Look at what time of the year are you going. Is it a heavy travel season? Do you have to allow extra in your budget because it's high travel season? Is it a shoulder season? Is it off season? Talk about that. Talk about it with your travel professional, and use a travel professional because they can get you really good deals. But that's it. I'm done. I'm out of here. Have a super fantastic sparkling evening, and we will catch you guys tomorrow evening around 6 p.m. Pacific time. Hei konera.